Hi everyone. In this episode, I'm trying to analyze a little bit and touch on the subject of the What's Family Matters, which happened, as you already know, in August 2018 in Colorado at a place called Frederick. That's the name of the city or town. I'm sorry. So this guy, Christopher Watts, um, killed his whole family, which was his wife, his pregnant wife, 15 weeks pregnant, that is around 4 months pregnant, wife Shannon, and his two daughters, their two daughters, Bella, almost 5, and Celeste, 3 years old. The motives are not absolutely clear because he's not explaining himself. I would like to know, what do you think? If you think that he's gonna come up with something at some point. It seems like he doesn't want to reveal anything for whatever reasons, but it would be great, I think, in my humble opinion, even though it's not gonna change anything, obviously, but for the sake of closure, of being able to close somehow the story, especially in the minds of the involved, right? The families of the deceased. So the guy, so these were a couple that had been married for something like 6 years, I think. They've been dating for like a couple of years more. So I guess they were having those very days, that very week, they were having their 8-year anniversary from the first date they had. And so apparently, well, they had issues, as you do, right? If you're married. Apparently, she had issues with her mother-in-law. I mean, Christopher's mother was not very fond of hers. And there had been a few things going on lately. Cici, Celeste, the youngest girl, had health issues related to food, intolerance to certain food. That is, I think, chocolate and a few more things. And apparently, like, the grandmother would come up with ice cream and stuff for the other kids, like the cousins and all that, without like taking the time to repair on the fact that this granddaughter couldn't have chocolate because it was not chocolate. I guess I'm wrong. It's not chocolate. It's something else. I'm sorry. But so, they were having issues among the family members, but they were still together. She was very goal-oriented. She was a very goal-oriented person. She would be like all day working. She had been working for this company, Level, which has, if I understood it correctly, a line of products called Thrive, which consist in a group of like being peels and patches and I don't know what else. Like dust to put on smoothies, to prepare smoothies, stuff like that. Energetic stuff, like designed to stimulate the defenses and also to be able to lose some weight. And these are, again, health-related products. And she would work on direct sales, so she would be like a promoter for this company, and she would be, all the time like FaceTiming and uploading stuff on Facebook, like live Facebook videos, getting along with the clients, and also at the same time like selling and promoting this product. So it's, I guess, this direct sales thing is something that is very social, because I've read somewhere or heard somewhere that you need people to feel compelled to get to know more about you and to hear about you and you giving them tips and cooking recipes, and people being able to, through the Facebook Live and stuff like that, get into your home and get to know your family, and so really get a sense of how the experience in this case with this Thrive company really is in practice, right? That is. So apparently she was very much focused on that, and she was doing pretty well. And I give her kudos for that, because I'm not saying that I admire the company per se. I've heard, I'll give you the credit, I've heard at the Clarissa Schick channel, she did great job commenting on this case, or giving the facts more than commenting. I think it was her who also had, she had another video like explaining her own experience with Thrive. And to be honest, I fell asleep, but not because of the video. The video was awesome, but I fell asleep because it happened to be like the last video I saw one night. You know, when you do like a marathon of 20 videos when you are already in bed, and then the last one is like you click on the last one, but you hear half of it and it's part of your dreams ish. So I didn't really pay attention. I was almost sleeping, but I remember that she said that the products apparently are not bad. I think they're based on, I don't know, aloe vera, maybe spirulina, stuff like that. But so apparently it's not, I don't know if it's very obvious what they have. I didn't research, right? But they seem pretty serious-ish again. But not the products itself, but the company apparently is not that serious, because she had the experience of working for them. And I think that she said something like, in sales, if you say like $120,000 on sales again for their products, you get like the 10%. And that's obviously not fair. And so she was explaining on that. So it seems to me like I'm not messing with the company right now, because this is not the subject of the commentary. But it seems to me like this is not a very serious company, apparently. I don't know. But the thing is that, nonetheless, to be able to sell all that much, that much stuff, you have to be very dedicated, right? It's not easy. For me especially, I couldn't do it really. And with 2 kids and, and taking care of the home the house was absolutely, perfect, organized, absolutely, pristine. And so apparently she was doing really good. She had been doing really well with the company for a period of time, but at the same time, she had been doing good with the company for quite a while. Nonetheless, they, seemingly had a few issues, financial issues going on. I think they related to the mortgage of their home. They lived in a very, very nice, super big house. And they both had a good income, but apparently it was not enough. So there were economic issues, financial issues going on, but also this Chris guy, it seems like he was trying to like start over again or something like that. Like he wanted to, everyone knows what happened. But here I'm trying to figure out with you guys if you can help me out to understand, because since this guy didn't give a proper explanation, even if it wasn't true, but I mean, this is since he confessed, right? It's all speculation, and I feel so guilty to say that this is such a fascinating case, because, it seems like the word fascinating, it doesn't get along with what happened, which is so terrible, but I can't find a better word, because really this, after the Jodi Arias case, this one blew my mind really, because there are so many things that I can't understand, and that keeps me, has me haunted. So this guy was seeing another girl, another woman from his work. He worked at an oil company, and he had been seeing this girl, I think, for a couple of months, not more than that. But it seems like he got really into her, and and the other way around, and they were, escaping on trips and stuff when his family, didn't find out. And so he was maybe dreaming of a new beginning. And this is what one of the many things that I don't get. What do you guys think? I mean, of course, we all think, like, why didn't he get a freaking divorce instead of killing, his wife and these two little girls? I mean, it doesn't make sense, obviously. But what was on his mind? I mean, did he? What was he thinking, that maybe if he separated, and he couldn't, like, get rid of the house, maybe? I mean, once you get the divorce, maybe he was, like, in a hurry to get the divorce, and then maybe he thought, or maybe he talked to Shannon, and he figured that she was not willing to quit the house, to leave the house, maybe. And so, who knows, something in the lines of, if you want to, we can get a divorce, but I'm staying here with the kids. So maybe I'm saying whatever, okay? Please, with all due respect to the victims, obviously, but trying to figure out, like, maybe, who knows, maybe he said, I won't be able to, like, pass you every month, the money for each of the 3 kids, and, money for the house, and money for this, for that, like, for the rest of their lives, or at least until the kids are 18. Maybe he panicked over that, right? And I really don't know. I can't, it doesn't, it doesn't enter my mind. You know what I mean? I think that probably that happens to you too. So maybe he thought, like, okay, it's easier. How can you think that's going to be easier? That's what I don't understand. That's when, you tend to think that the guy was a little dumb, really, because there's no way it's going to be easier to kill, 4 members of your family, or 3 members of your family, and a soon-to-be born. But was it money related, or did it have something to do, like, with, like sometimes when in the animal kingdom, when the offsprings are maybe weaker, or, for whatever reason, like, the animal thinks that he or she's not going to be able to take care properly of all of those offsprings, it happens that maybe they let one of them die or something like that. Even some species eat their little offsprings too. It happens. So does it happen also that in human species that thing occur, like that conduct occur? Because I think so. I mean, each time I read about these things, like crimes, violent crimes, I think that we are very similar to chimpanzees and other animals. So anyway, I think this woman was, again, credits to her, because to work for this company, to be able to have that conduct, to wake up like 4 or 5 a.m. every morning and, be like your own boss sort of thing, in the sense that I've heard from this other channel, Clarissa Schick, that you are all the time being pushed by the company, like, okay, how much did you sell today? Who did you contact? What did you do? So it's like you have no, again, I could never do it. It seems like you have no break. It's sort of an obsession. So this woman was really something else, right? At the same time, all this conduct that she had, and this, politeness, the fact that she was so organized. I mean, she was like heavily organized and all that, which is a good virtue in many senses. But on the other hand, it seemed, this, with all due respect, I'm just trying to figure out, what I'm never going to be able to figure out, obviously, but it's all about, curiosity, genuine curiosity, to try to understand at least a little bit of human behavior. It's not that I'm judging anyone here or anything like that, right? Especially the deceased. But what I mean is, it seems like she was a little bossy sometimes, and I've heard and read a few things about it, but I'm getting to my own conclusion, in the sense that Um, I mean, I saw a few videos where she to me seemed lovely, by the way, right? But little things like that, like this Chris guy is behind her, like she calls him up for a live Facebook video with FaceTime with her clients or whatever, and so she calls him up and he's behind her, and it seems like I don't know. She's, of course, you can judge a person for a Facebook FaceTime, right? But it seemed to me, I got the vibe like she was, he was there behind her, like sort of celebrating whatever she was saying, giggling and supporting, but she wouldn't pass a lot of attention to him. You know what I mean? She would be like laughing with whoever would post on the video while he was there, and she would do jokes like, I don't remember specifically, but stuff like, oh, this little brain of his, or something along the lines of this little banana bread here, something like that. And so I got the feeling that he was not having it, right? He was not having a lot of fun with it. Maybe this is just my impression. I don't need to say that I'm not justifying anything at all. Again, this is just a completely innocent, I want to think, right, commentary. Again, I think that it's not necessary to say that I'm not justifying anything. I don't think anyone could justify anything of this kind. But I think that what we're trying to do when we commit to maybe take the time and comment on this case and try to speculate and figure out what happened is, again, because we're trying to understand like human relations. Human relationships are a big mystery for me. I personally hadn't been a master on them yet, if I will ever, right? I still see couples and gregarious people that get together and function between each other as something strange to me in a way. My parents got divorced when I was a teenager, but before that they weren't really doing good, so I have no memories of them, loving each other like that. So it's something that it always, marked me, maybe, in a way. And so I'm not saying that's the only cause, okay? I'm just saying that I try to understand human behavior and human relationships, and I never can totally. Does anyone, but, well, certainly not me. So that's why I'm trying to figure out. I mean, this guy apparently got fed up. He wanted to get started all over again. Apparently, the morning that he killed them, he listened to a Metallica song which had something going on the lyrics, something like getting rid of the weaker or something like that, getting rid of the family. Well, I shouldn't mention this if I don't have the lyrics with me. So anyway, so the guy basically, she came back from a work trip. They were already talking about separating. She was not doing very well. There's a thing of sadism there, I think, too. There's something terrible, I think, when you tell someone that you're separating when that person's pregnant, with all the sensitivity that this woman had at the time going on in her body, in her emotions, right? That mixture of emotions, and you start telling this person that you want to, divorce. And also she was on this work trip, and she would be like trying to get along again and give it a second shot to the relationship and try it out. So she would be texting him like, hey baby, how's it going? And he wouldn't be nice to her. In fact, obviously he got together with his mistress while she was on the trip. So my impression is he was getting colder and colder, but still, considering the mortgage thing, the maintenance of the kids, if they split, he would have to take care financially of the kids for a long time, almost 20 years. Fell out of love, whatever, you name it, right? The new lover, which apparently, blew his mind off, and I don't know, he was so fascinated by this woman that he was willing to leave everything for her or whatever, getting started all over again. This guy's 33, so maybe he thought that he was young enough to get started all over again, whatever, you name it, right? Well, I mean, from there to killing them and throwing them away, like dumping them at an oil tank, a couple of oil tanks at his work. Again, so, well, that's what I don't understand. So she comes back from this trip and he's there. It's 2 a.m. in the morning. He's there with the kids. Her friend dumps her leaves her, at the gate of her house. She enters the house. That's the last time anyone apart from this guy sees her alive. She enters the home. No one knows what happened. But then a few hours later, the guy's, putting stuff on his truck and leaving. And he took the bodies to, he worked for an oil company. So he went like very, very far away. I think it's far away. I think it's very far away because it's far away from everything as far as I'm concerned. Like, I think that it's very far from, from the city, from the town, from the center, right? So these are the places, the factories or, again, the oil tanks, the fields, right? So he was in I think in the mechanics part of the company, but also he was a coordinator of fields, sort of ish, something like that. So he told a coworker that he would, but I think he told the coworker like the day before, even before Shannon arrived, he told the coworker that he would take care of that field, the following day. Like, there are many things that make you think that this was absolutely not improvised. This was very well thought of, beforehand. So he takes the bodies. I mean, he strangled his wife and he, and I think he suffocated the little kids. And so he took them to these oil fields where he dumped the bodies of each one of the girls to a different oil container, a huge one. And then it seems like his wife's body couldn't make it through the hole of these containers. So he improvised like a hole, like he dug a hole like that. And he put her, threw her there. Like with a little bit of dust and land and a blanket, and that's it. So I'm not quite sure if he was the one that finally, when he confessed afterwards, if he was the one that told them about the place. I think so, the place where the bodies were dumped. But I think that something happened in the middle with the car, like with the registrator of the car. Now I think about the name and I don't have it. The GPS. So I don't know what happened first, if it was the analysis of the GPS of the truck or his confession was first. Anyway, they got to the bodies and he after a disastrous polygraph test, he confessed. I don't know if he had to do it, like, I don't know, in the laws of Colorado, whatever, you're obligated to do a polygraph test. I heard somewhere, I can't credit the video because I really don't remember which one was it, this one, but I've heard that apparently he was not obligated. I mean, he could have said, no, I'm not taking any polygraph test until you have, any proofs that I'm involved, or before I have a lawyer that I pick or whatever. I mean, something along those lines, that you're not obligated, but for some reason he did it. Also, he did, interviews for, I don't know, ABC or whatever, which weren't absolutely productive for him. But for some reason, he went forward. Like, he went forward with his way of seeing, way of imagining how he would avoid being in jail for this. I think, well, another huge mystery. What was on his mind? Facing the cops, saying yes to everything, facing the news, facing the polygraph test. Well, I was saying before that after he failed the polygraph, he finally confessed, but he was such a bitch that he did. When he first confessed, quote unquote, he said that, yeah, he killed Shannon, but because she was strangling their daughters. And so she was the one who killed their daughters, which is so terrible. It reminded me a lot of Jodi Arias. Well, in fact, I think it has many things in common with Jodi Arias, with the Jodi Arias case. For instance, the fact that after they were dead, they were, trashing them. They were, dragging them through the mud. Because remember Jodi Arias when she said that this guy, Travis Alexander, was a pedophile, and obviously she couldn't prove anything, etc. No shame whatsoever, right? After you did something like that to a person, to say that they were pedophiles or something. And now this guy saying that this poor woman who obviously, evidently was, she was totally devoted to her children, right? You could see that. I mean, it was obvious just in the Thrive videos that she did every day or so. I mean, you could tell. To say that she killed the girls, for what reason? Come on. I mean, what's the reason? And also another thing, the alibis. I mean, the fact that, for instance, after, Jodi Arias, after she killed Travis Alexander, and how she killed Travis Alexander, she, slaughtered him, actually. She was, sending him messages and leaving messages on his telephone like, hey, how are you? I don't know anything about you. I've been thinking of going to this recital together, whatever, this music show with this girlfriend. What about? Are you up to it? Like trying to do as if she had nothing to do with it. And this guy was also messaging after, a couple of hours after he dumped the bodies of his whole family. He was messaging his wife, and he was asking, honey, where are you? I'm worried. Yeah, he wasn't calling her honey like a day before when she was trying to make up with him. But anyway, so there are a few things in common. So that makes me think, I try to figure out if these people are narcissists. Well, in the Jodi Arias case, I think it was pretty obvious. In this case, I don't think it's that obvious. I think he has elements of narcissism, because it's not, I don't think it's black and white, with all due respect, because a book, a manual, a book, a school book, whatever, says this is narcissism, so and so, this and this, that doesn't mean it's black or white, right? I think psychology is something so complex as everything in life that it can happen that you have, a few characteristics of narcissism maybe, but not necessarily you fit the whole definition, right? So it seems to me like he doesn't fit the whole definition, but he seems to have a few elements of narcissism. For instance, see how sure he was, even though everyone around him probably knew that he was hiding something, because it was very obvious. He was like bouncing and pretty nervous, sweating and all that stuff. But nonetheless, after he did what he did, he was looking at the reporters or the policemen in the eyes, which is weird. I mean, I couldn't do that for sure. One day I did something which is, it's a stupid thing, but it's something very silly that I did to a neighbor that doesn't let me sleep all night. So it's a stupid, very stupid thing. And that was, my heart was, when I did it, I felt like, oh my God, this is like doing something bad to someone. It's like, this was very stupid. Like his garbage can, I changed it. I put it in another place. So the following day he wouldn't find it and he had to walk one floor downstairs. Something like that. Very stupid. Just in order to bother him, because I tried to talk to him about his noises and he wouldn't change anything. So I was like, I saw the garbage can and I was like, okay, I'm going to do something evil for the first time in my life on purpose. And after I did it, I came back running home and my heart was like, dum, 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 dum. I was, sweating. It was the most horrible feeling. I will never do it again. It's like when you think about stealing, right? You think like, okay, I got this at this shop, whatever, and I could steal it because the owner is not here. It's not, nobody's watching, whatever. But I won't do it because if I do it, I know that it's going to be horrible. Okay, with those little things. So imagine after you do what this guy did, right? He's looking at everyone in the eye. And another thing, this girl Shanann, she had a very good friend who, like, that very morning when this guy took her and dumped the bodies, etc. Like, this guy, after he dumped the bodies, he went to work as if nothing happened, right? Everything normal. But before he went back home, this woman, Nicole Atkinson, I think, she was the one that, took her to her house the previous early morning from that trip, that Thrive trip they did together. She knew her friend so well, and she knew that her friend was, a little depressed because of everything that was going on with her husband and the separation and all that, and very sensitive and pregnant and all that. She didn't do very well in the trip. She didn't want to eat. Emotionally, she was pretty devastated, seemingly. So she was afraid, and so she went as soon as her friend wouldn't get back to her on her phone. She was so concerned that she went directly to her house, called the police, and they were waiting for this Chris Watts at home, like at the gate of his house, before he was able to get back home after he killed, his family. So imagine just having done that, going to work afterwards and not being able to come back home, have a shower, think about it, drink a few mates to think about it. No, I'm kidding. Mates, that's beverage here from my country. You don't know what it is probably, but doesn't matter. So having a cup of tea and thinking about it, especially that, being silent and thinking and trying to relax or whatever, or thinking about the alibi, whatever you need to do after you murder someone, like manual to murder people. First thing you have to do is when you get back home, you have to take a shower. You know what I mean? Well, this guy, that's common sense, I guess. If you murder someone, especially if you murder like 3 people and these are your family members and there are kids involved, how come you can face, you get back home and her friend is there and police are there and neighbors, and he faced them all like immediately. He didn't have a moment, you know what I mean? So that's very interesting to me, even though he did very dumb things. Well, basically what he did was the dumbest ever and the evilest ever, the most evil ever. But not having a chance to recover, if that word even makes sense, from what you did, and having to explain already to people, oh boy, that would have been hell. Imagine being him. Imagine being on his shoes, right? Imagine for a second being himself. Oh boy. So he would give interviews afterwards and tell the cops that his wife, told him that she was going to a friend's house without saying even the name of the friend, which was hard to believe to begin with, and with the kids. But then the car was there, her car, and her stuff and the medicines of the kids, especially of the youngest that needed a medicine like to survive. And this was an obsessive mother. And so how can you leave the house without saying, where you go? So I think that, I think that the friends that were concerned, I think Nicole and Cassie, I think was the other one. I'm sorry if I'm making any mistake with the names. I'm not quite sure though. So they, I think they first thought that she would do something like maybe commit suicide because she was so weak emotionally. then I think it was very obvious that, it shifted, and they figured out that it had to do with him. But for a few hours or so, I think they were thinking of the possibility that she was going to do something crazy like that. Anyway, well, these are a few of my impressions of this in this case. Do you think he'll ever talk about it? Do you think he'll ever explain anything? What's in your mind? What do you make of this case, apart from the fact that it's so horrible and unthinkable and terrible? He had obviously 3 or 4 life sentences consecutive without a possibility of parole, so he's going to spend the rest of his life there. But do you think the mistress had anything to do with it? Because apparently she had been searching for Shannon Watts' name like a year before she started dating this guy, and also something she says are hard to prove, and she's been browsing messages and stuff, and it's a little, I don't know. What do you think about it? Do you think she had anything to do? Maybe not directly with her own hands, obviously, but maybe supporting the idea of for him to get rid of his family. If I had to bet, I would say no. For the small amount of information I've got, I would say no. Obviously, she was like playing with fire, and she was, fooling around with a married man and all this. I mean, but leaving morals apart behind, I don't see any direct relation to the mothers, but I'm not sure. Some people think there is, because she was, apparently Googling about real estate or something like that. I don't know. What do you think about it? Again, do you think he'll ever talk? Which is something that I'm so curious about. And do you think he was like a spoiled kid? It seems like that when you hear like his mother's interview. And well, any thoughts of these? And what do you think about someone who does that to the family? Do you think that they feel any empathy whatsoever? Do you think that you can love someone and one day you can do that just like that because you put yourself first? Or do you think he's really regretting it? Or is he living in a hell of himself in the sense that he can't feel love for his own kids? What do you think about the psychology of this person? Anyway, see you in the next chapter with hopefully another interesting subject. I'm sorry that I'm saying that this is fascinating or interesting, because I know that it involves a lot of suffering people. But the truth is that since I've heard about the case, I couldn't stop watching stuff about it. It's really compelling, and it really drives you to try to find out and understand a little bit about again and again human behavior. Thank you so much. Hope you have a great day, and take care of yourselves and the ones you love around you. Oh, I forgot something that for me is very important, and I think that not many people will share this feeling with me, because I think that as far as I'm concerned, what the Frederick police did with the case was almost impeccable. I think it's incredible what they did, and how they pursued the issue until he confessed, and the detectives, everything seemed pretty brilliant. But something that looks like a detail, but for me it's not at all. And in the videos that you see that they're searching the house the first day, the second day, and getting in touch with him and seeing what's going on. And also, I don't know if I mentioned before, I said that her car was there, and also her purse with the medicine and all that. The dog, man, the little doggy, the poor thing. I feel so sorry for that doggy. The doggy was barking like crazy. Imagine, the dog was there when this horrible thing occurred, and so he or she, I think it's a male, he saw everything. He knew everything. This little doggy, and then he ended up being home alone after this guy took the bodies away, and so he was there alone. And probably he had been barking all day and nobody heard. And then the police and the friend of Shannon's and this Chris guy coming back, and being interrogated and asked and considered like the victim for the first couple of days, and the dog desperately barking. There's even footage where the dog is barking at the policeman, like trying to say something to a giant policeman, like a giant fat policeman, and the little doggy, moving the tile and jumping around and barking desperately, trying to tell him it's him, it's just he's just right here, it's him. And it's horrible, and how no one pays attention whatsoever, and how the dog at a certain point he resigns himself and he starts crying desperately, weeping, the poor thing, oh boy, and nobody would listen. And I think that I don't think this is gonna get to the Frederick Police Department, this little video I did, but just in the case it did. I mean, I'm from Argentina, who cares, it's so far away, I'm not even American. But what I mean is, I hope if any policeman for some reason or policewoman hears this someday, I wish so much that investigators, policemen, etc., they would be able to take the time, the moments to think about it and go, okay, so this dog has been here the whole time and he's barking at this guy and he's crying this. I mean, I haven't done anything to any special course to understand animals at all. I have no idea. Nevertheless, I can watch these videos, these like home videos, or with the GoPros that are not like that clear or anything, in my little laptop here, and I can tell that this dog is trying to communicate something. It would be so great if you guys, investigators, again, policemen, lawyers, all that things, when you are investigating something, please consider not only the purse, the car, all those signals, the flip-flops that were there, but also consider the fact that the dog is there. The dog saw everything. And so try to understand what the dog is saying. He was barking desperately at the guy. He was not barking because whatever. And there are many cases like this. Again, I can't believe it, but when I'm figuring out about this case, I get back to the Jodi Arias case again and again and again. Oh, and by the way, I think some people say that it would be better to say the Travis Alexander case and not the Jodi Arias case, because the one who needs the remembrance is the victim. So if I get it correctly, that's what some people say, or his family, and I think I tend to agree, obviously. So I'm sorry if I did it wrong. And in this case, again, maybe it shouldn't be the Chris Watts case, but the Shannon case, Bella case, and the Shannon Watts case, the Bella Watts case, and the Cece Watts case, and the Nico, which was the unborn baby case. So if that's what's proper, I'm sorry that I didn't do it. It was just in a rush that I expressed myself. But in the Travis Alexander case, another similarity again. The poor dog, same thing, I can't believe it really. The poor dog was also desperately barking and crying when they arrived there. So imagine these little dogs, how much they suffer since they can't communicate what they saw. And actually, they can communicate it, but it's us humans who have to take the time to try to understand the dog. You just, bend your knees and you let the dog smell your hand, and you try to tell the dog, dude, I'm here. What do you want to tell me? And the dog will guide you, man. That's what dogs do. I mean, police people, come on. You use dogs to sniff stuff and to search for stuff, and and you know what dogs can do. And when you want to, you can get along with dogs and be understood by dogs and understand them. So try to understand them in these cases too. Why do you understand dogs in certain situations when they're looking for drugs or for cadavers or whatever, and you're not paying attention when a dog is like has been at the home where someone has been killed, and the dog has been there all day, and you're not following that dog? It's the best font of information that you have, I think, when something like this happens. So I'm sorry that I got so passionate about it, but I think that you get the idea. For me, it's something that, again, I would offer humbly as a suggestion for whatever police department or whatever it is, just to pay attention to the dogs, and obviously someone comfort those dogs, because it's horrible what happened. And I can tell you that dog was trying to speak and no one would listen. See you around. Take care. Bye.